I did not think being curious made me a cheater. The thing is, I had spent years calling my husband safe, like that was a compliment. 2 dating apps, 1 old college friend, and of course I told myself I was only checking my options. Then my husband learned I had agreed to meet his friend for drinks. By the time I called him a doormat, he had already stopped being one. My name is Paloma Reyes. I was 34, and I worked as a senior guest experience manager at a boutique hotel. The thing is, I knew how to make strangers feel chosen before they understood they had been waiting for that feeling all day. 2 lobby candles, 1 polished smile. And of course, I thought that made me honest about value. That evening, the lobby smelled like white lilies and lemon oil. I was moving a low vase 3 inches to the left because the front desk looked colder without it. Guests noticed things without knowing they noticed them. That was my skill. Dorian Vale stood near the bar with a glass of mineral water and a room service folder under his arm. He worked in luxury real estate, which meant he talked about apartments like they were people with better futures. He said I made the hotel feel like a place people wanted permission to enter. I smiled because 2 board members were close enough to hear. Adrian arrived 20 minutes later with flat shoes and tea. My husband had remembered my feet would hurt before I had admitted they hurt. He also remembered the ginger tea from the cafe around the corner, the one that stayed hot long enough for the drive home. Years before, that would have felt like love with perfect timing. That night, it looked practical. Tessa saw him before I did. She was leaning near the service corridor, still wearing her staff badge, and she said Adrian had the energy of a man who carried umbrellas for women who wanted storms. I told her not to be cruel. Of course, I smiled first. Adrian kissed my cheek and asked if I was ready. He said his father had needed help with a medical form, and that was why he was late. He said it gently, like being late with a reason should not leave a mark. In the car, he asked what had changed between us. Softly, not accusing, not dramatic. He said I had been looking at him lately like he had already failed some test he never received. I told him nothing had changed. Work was heavy, events were loud. People wanted too much from me. He nodded, but his hand stayed on the steering wheel longer after we parked, like the drive had not ended for him. At home, my silver phone charm tapped against the counter when I set my phone down. Adrian had bought it during a weekend trip to Santa Barbara, back when we still planned imaginary hotels we would stay in one day. Tessa texted that a woman like me should not age inside a marriage that felt like a waiting room. I did not answer. I went to the bathroom mirror, lifted my phone, and took the first photo that did not look like a wife. The hotel staff bathroom had warm bulbs over the mirror, which was unfair lighting for honest women. It made tired skin look intentional and ordinary lipstick look like a decision. The thing is, I was not trying to become someone else at first. 2 photos, 1 locked door. And of course, I told myself I was only checking whether I still existed outside my married name. The first picture was simple. Black blouse, hair loose, chin turned toward the light. The silver phone charm hung from the side of my phone, catching 1 bright dot near my wrist. I almost cropped it out. Then I left it there because cropping felt more dishonest than posting. That was the kind of logic I used then. At lunch, Tessa sat across from me in her office with a salad she had no intention of finishing. She had been divorced for 11 months and still used the word freedom like it had paid rent for her. I showed her the photo, not the app, not yet. She asked if Adrian had taken it. I said Adrian took pictures like he was documenting appliance damage. Tessa laughed and said safe men were useful until better men started looking. She said there was no harm in remembering the market existed. I told her I was not livestock. She said nobody said livestock, and that was how I knew she had enjoyed the word market. That afternoon, I downloaded the first app in the supply closet, while the housekeeping manager argued with a laundry vendor outside. 1 app looked shameful. 2 looked reckless. 3 looked like I was doing research. So of course I downloaded 3. My profile did not say married. It did not say single either. It said I was trying to remember what it felt like to be alive again. That sounded wounded instead of unfaithful. Wounded women got softer judgment. Dorian messaged first. Not on the app. He had my number from a vendor list and used it like access had always been assumed. He said the lobby had looked less interesting after I left. It was polished. It did not ask for too much. It made me feel expensive, not cheap. A younger man from the gym messaged through one of the apps after I changed my photo. He said I had the look of someone who knew she should be somewhere better. That sentence was not smart. It still landed. By the end of the week, I had new gym leggings, new perfume, and a new habit of putting my phone face down before Adrian entered a room. Adrian noticed. Quiet people always do. One night, I came downstairs wearing the green set I had told myself was only for Pilates. Adrian was at the kitchen island sorting through receipts for a repair on the garage door. He looked at my hair, then at the small bottle of perfume in my hand. He asked if the gym had changed dress codes. I said God forbid I wanted to feel good in my own skin. What he meant was that I had never worn perfume to sweat before. What I heard was that he wanted to make my body a household item again, something that belonged to routines and errands and his careful little systems. He said he was not criticizing me. He said I looked beautiful. I asked if he meant that or if he had remembered husbands were supposed to say it. The receipt in his hand bent slightly. He smoothed it flat instead of answering too quickly. That was Adrian. He managed paper before feelings. A few nights later, Dorian asked if I wanted one drink after a hotel supplier meeting. I told myself suppliers stayed late all the time. I told Adrian we had a guest recovery meeting. The words came out easily because hotels were always recovering something. The rooftop bar smelled like basil, wine, and rain drying on hot stone. Dorian chose a table where the city lights made the glassware look brighter than it was. He asked what it was like to spend every day making strangers feel wanted. I said it was easier than doing it at home. He looked at me like that sentence deserved space. Adrian would have asked what I meant. Dorian only let it sit there and become beautiful. When I came home, the kitchen light was on. Adrian sat at the table with a mug beside him and the laundry folded in careful stacks. He asked how the gym was. I said it ran late. He said my gym bag was still dry. Then he said I smelled like the rooftop bar near my hotel. Specific. Factual. No raised voice. One named place. One real question. The thing is, I heard suspicion before I heard care. My mother used to hear the same thing when my father asked why she was quiet. She would say safe men did not shout because they wanted the room to do it for them. I had carried that sentence for years without checking if it fit every man. I told Adrian he only cared because another man might notice what he had stopped noticing. He looked down at the folded towels. One stack for the bathroom. One stack for the linen closet. No anger he could use. No heat I could call desire. He said he was trying to ask why the story did not match the room. I told him he sounded like a night manager checking a complaint form. After that, he put the towels away without asking if I wanted tea. The small absence followed me upstairs. Owen Maddox saw my profile 3 nights later. I did not know that yet. He was Adrian's old friend from college, recently divorced, the kind of man who had become quiet enough to observe before speaking. He swiped through one of the apps in his apartment while eating noodles from a paper bowl. Then my bathroom mirror selfie appeared on his screen, silver phone charm and all. Owen's apartment was across town, above a dentist office with a blue sign that made his windows glow at night. I learned that later, from the way he described it to Adrian. The thing is, exposure rarely begins with a scream. 2 noodles left in a bowl, 1 dating profile, and of course I thought the danger was in being unwanted, not in being seen. Owen did not call Adrian first. He looked at the profile, then at the name, then at the photo again. Paloma, 34. Hotel life. Trying to remember what alive feels like. He knew my face from cookouts, birthdays, and the night Adrian helped him move after his divorce. At first, he thought it might be fake, so he matched with me. His profile used his first name and a photo from an angle that made his face partly shadowed. I did not connect him to Adrian right away. I saw broad shoulders, a careful smile, and a man who wrote full sentences. That was enough to answer. He asked if I always made boredom sound elegant. I wrote that boredom was what people called stability when they were too polite to admit they were dying inside it. There it was. My little philosophy, polished enough to feel less cruel. Owen asked if I was actually married. I said marriage was not always the same as being chosen. He asked if my husband knew I was on the app. I said my husband knew how to unclog sinks, pay bills, and make soup, so maybe he could survive not knowing one thing. The message stayed on my screen for a while after I sent it. I liked the edge of it. Tessa would have loved it. Owen asked if I wanted drinks at a cafe patio on Thursday. I agreed. He did not meet me. He sent the screenshots to Adrian. That evening, Cass hosted dinner for a small group at his house. Cass was one of Adrian's friends, but he liked my hotel stories and usually laughed at the right places. Maribel came too, my cousin, along with Tessa and Dorian, who Cass knew through a property client. That was how these rooms worked in my life. Everyone overlapped just enough to make denial possible. Adrian was quiet from the moment we arrived. Not cold, not dramatic. Quiet in a way that made the salt shaker, the glasses and the folded napkins seem too loud. I overperformed because silence from a husband feels like a challenge when you are already carrying guilt in your purse. I laughed at Cass's jokes. I touched Dorian's sleeve when he told a story about a penthouse buyer who wanted a panic room but hated the word fear. I made myself bright enough that no one could accuse me of hiding. Tessa watched me with interest at first. Then Adrian looked at Owen, who had arrived late and stood near the kitchen doorway with a bottle of wine still in his hand. That was the first crack in the evening. Cass said something about marriage being hard after year 5. He meant it lightly. People do that when they smell tension and want to make it social. I said monogamy was only romantic when both people were still worth choosing. The room changed by inches. Maribel looked down at her plate. Tessa's smile paused halfway. Dorian lifted his glass but did not drink. Adrian asked whether Owen was one of the people I thought might choose me. Nobody moved. The question was calm. Too calm. A quiet debrief, not a public attack. That made it worse because his voice gave me no excuse to call him cruel. I asked what he meant, though I knew the shape before the words arrived. Owen said he had seen my profile. He said he matched because he needed to know if it was real. He said I had agreed to drinks. I heard betrayal from the wrong direction. Owen had been in my marriage for 10 seconds and had already chosen Adrian. That was how it seemed to me then. I told Owen that stalking a friend's wife on dating apps was pathetic. Maribel said my name softly. I ignored her. Adrian asked why I agreed to meet Owen if marriage still meant anything to me. What he meant was simple. What I heard was smaller. I heard a man who had not looked at me properly in months asking why other men had. So I gave him the ugly answer, dressed as truth. I said I was allowed to check whether life had better options. I said being married did not mean I had to pretend Adrian was the last man on earth. Cass stopped cutting his food. Owen stayed near the doorway. Tessa looked at her phone but did not type. Dorian said nothing. That silence from him bothered me. He had liked the version of me who spoke in velvet sentences about freedom. He did not seem as interested in the version sitting across from a husband with screenshots. Adrian removed his wedding ring and placed it beside his plate. Not loud. Not theatrical. He set it down the way a person sets down a key they no longer plan to use that night. For a second, the small gold circle looked more alive than anyone at the table. Something inside me opened, just a little. The thought was not clean, but it came close. Maybe I had treated attention like proof and loyalty like furniture. Maybe Adrian had been sitting across from me the whole time, still trying to ask for one honest answer. Then I saw Maribel watching me with pity. I closed the door. I told myself Adrian had planned this. I told myself Owen had baited me. I told myself men always work together when a woman stopped being grateful. Adrian photographed the ring beside the folded napkin. Owen saw him do it. I saw Owen see it. Tessa texted me under the table asking if I was okay. I started answering with something sharp, but the typing dots disappeared on her side. No second message came. Dinner ended before dessert. On the ride home, Adrian did not ask questions. That quiet was not weakness anymore, but I still called it that because I needed one word I could stand on. The kitchen looked too clean when Adrian placed the printed screenshots on the table. He had wiped the counter, emptied the sink, and stacked the mail near the fruit bowl. The thing is, organized men can make pain look like paperwork. 4 pages, 1 tablet, and of course I told myself he was performing dignity because he had no fire. He did not start with Dorian. He did not start with the younger Jim messages. He started with Owen because Owen was the part I could not make abstract. Adrian said this was not one app, one drink, or one reckless sentence at Cass's table. He said it was a system, profile, Jim excuses, rooftop bar, Dorian, Owen, dinner. He placed each word down like a stone. I told him he was making curiosity sound like betrayal. He said curiosity did not usually require deleting notifications and lying about dry gym bags. I said he sounded proud of catching me. He said there was nothing proud in reading his wife describe him as a man who could survive not knowing one thing. That sentence had my own words inside it. I hated hearing them in his mouth. The tablet sat beside my plate. It was the family tablet, the one we used for recipes and travel plans we rarely booked. Adrian had opened the App Store history. My dating apps were there, clean little icons under my name. He deleted them while I watched. Not fast, not angry. One tap, then another. The icons shook, disappeared, left blank spaces in the grid. He had already printed what he needed. I understood that without being told. 2 apps. 1 tablet. No crime yet, I wanted to say, but the line did not fit anymore. He placed the tablet beside my untouched dinner. Lemon chicken, rice, green beans. Food he had cooked because routines were the last thing he knew how to offer before language failed. For a minute his hands became the room. They were steady, not weak, not confused. He had given me days, maybe weeks, to choose one honest sentence, and I had spent that time becoming sharper. A door opened. I saw him sitting at Cass's table with the ring beside his plate. I saw Owen near the doorway, uncomfortable but still present. I saw the silver charm in my mirror photo, Adrian's gift hanging from the phone I used to advertise myself as unfinished. A thin truth moved near me. Adrian had not been a doormat. He had been waiting for me to stop stepping. Then I shut it. I told myself he liked this. Men like Adrian loved being wronged because it gave their calmness a stage. He could finally become the injured one, the decent one, the man everyone would choose without asking what he had failed to give. I told him monogamy was temporary for most people, whether they admitted it or not. He asked if love was temporary too. I said love could be real and still not be final. I said adults should know that. I said only frightened people needed one person to be enough forever. He looked at the tablet, not at me. That made me push harder. I said he had always been the safe choice, the decent choice, the kind man. The man a woman chose when she wanted a stable house, not when she wanted to feel alive. His face changed by 1 inch. 1 inch was all Adrian ever gave a wound in public or private. He asked if that was how long I had thought of him. Safe, but not best. I told him not to make one sentence into another complaint form. That was when he stood and went to the bedroom closet. I followed, because silence from him had started to feel like a door closing without my permission. He pulled a suitcase from the top shelf. He did not pack it. He only set it on the floor, upright, beside his shoes. A silent decision marker. I called it a prop in my head because props could be moved back. I asked if he wanted me to beg. He said no. He said he wanted me to tell the truth before there was nothing left to protect. I said the truth was that he made me feel cared for, but not wanted. He did not answer for a long time. Then he said that might be true. That admission should have slowed my mouth. Instead, it gave me new height. I called Maribel after he went to the Home Office. I asked if she could say we were together the night I met Dorian, just in case Adrian started building a story around nothing. Maribel's baby cried in the background, and she did not rush to comfort me. She said she would not lie so I could keep calling betrayal freedom. I told her she had always been judgmental about women who wanted more. She said wanting more was not the same as keeping a husband as a backup plan. The call ended without goodbye. At 2 a.m., I woke and saw light under the Home Office door. Adrian was scanning pages. The folder name on the laptop screen was Options. I stood in the hallway in my bare feet, listening to the slow sound of paper feeding through the machine. The house had not broken loudly. It had become administrative. The rooftop wine bar was the same one where Dorian had first made my restlessness sound elegant. Saturday night gave it better lighting and worse witnesses. The glass railings reflected candlelight, and the air smelled like basil and expensive perfume. The thing is, I wore the black dress from my profile on purpose. 1 silver phone charm, 1 table for 2, and of course I called it a conversation. Dorian was already there when I arrived. He stood as if the room had asked him to. He said I looked like a woman who needed a life without manila folders. That sentence would have thrilled me a month earlier. Now it had a small crack. It sounded prepared. Not for me, maybe. For women like me. Still, I sat across from him. I placed my phone on the table, charm side up. The silver piece clicked once against the glass. Dorian glanced at it and then at the view. He said the city made bad decisions look cinematic from high enough. I asked if he thought I was making a bad decision. He said he thought I was deciding whether to be honest with herself. That was his gift. He made self-interest sound like self-respect. Then Adrian arrived with Owen, not storming, not searching. He came through the host stand calmly, wearing the grey jacket I used to say made him look older in a good way. Owen stayed half a step behind him. Witness, not attacker. Dorian's hand left the table. I noticed that before Adrian said anything. Adrian asked if he could sit for 5 minutes. Dorian said maybe this was a private matter. Adrian looked at him once and said Dorian had helped make it less private. No one raised a voice. The rooftop noise carried around us, cutlery and laughter, and a server explaining wine to people who wanted words more than taste. Adrian said he wanted 1 honest sentence before he handled things properly. That phrase again. Properly. Not a threat. Not a label. A closed drawer. I said honesty was exactly what he could not survive. He sat anyway. Owen remained standing near the railing, hands in his pockets, looking like a man who wished decency had required less attendance. I told Adrian monogamy was temporary. Love was temporary. Desire was temporary. People only pretended one person could be enough forever because they were scared of starting over. Owen looked away. Dorian took a slow drink of water. Adrian asked if I had started over while still sleeping in our bed because starting over alone frightened me. That was too close. I laughed, but the sound came out thin. I said he had always wanted to make me small enough to fit inside his life. He said he had wanted to build a life I could rest inside. I said rest was just another word for giving up when men like him used it. He did not flinch. That made me worse. He said I was right about one thing. He had made me feel cared for, but not wanted. He said he knew how to bring tea, fix lights, remember appointments, and check tire pressure. He said he had let desire become assumed instead of spoken. There it was. The true thing. The thing I had wanted him to say months earlier, before profiles, before Owen, before the black dress became evidence. I could have stopped. Instead, I used the admission like a knife. I said a doormat like him was never going to be enough for a woman who still had options. The table beside us went quiet. Not fully. Just enough. A woman in a cream coat looked down at her glass. The server paused, then kept walking. Owen's jaw moved once. Dorian stared at the skyline. Adrian looked at me for several seconds. No ring on his hand. I had not noticed until then. He said he would not fight for someone who needed an audience to leave him. I told him he was proving my point by refusing to fight. He said fighting was not the same as being stepped on. Dorian shifted in his chair. I looked to him. Not for rescue exactly, but for confirmation. He had made me feel like a woman with market value. He had liked my sharp sentences. He had liked my complaints when they were abstract. He did not meet my eyes. Adrian stood. He said he would handle the rest properly. Owen left with him. I stayed seated because standing too quickly would look like losing. After they were gone, Dorian said maybe tonight was not the right time for him to be involved. I asked if that was what he called it now, involvement. He said he had not signed up to be part of someone's collapse, not my freedom, not my honesty. Collapse. I reached for my phone and sent Tessa screenshots from the night. Adrian at the table, Owen near the railing, Dorian's water glass beside my wine. I wrote that everyone was trying to make me the villain for refusing a dead marriage. Tessa did not answer for 11 minutes. Then she wrote that she did not want to be dragged into this. One sentence. No loyalty. No fire emoji. No voice note telling me I deserved better. The space beside me became louder than the rooftop. Dorian said he had an early showing in the morning. He stood, put cash on the table, and left before the bill came in full. The chair across from me stayed pulled back after he walked away. I kept looking at it because empty chairs have a way of becoming honest before people do. At home the next morning, Adrian's side of the closet was half empty. His work shirts were gone. His shaving kit was gone. The suitcase from the floor was gone. The printed screenshots were gone too. Only the tablet remained on the dresser, its blank home screen waiting like a mouth with no words left. The courthouse family services office smelled like old carpet and vending machine coffee. My phone, keys, and silver charm sat in a plastic security tray while a deputy waved me through. The thing is, public buildings make everyone ordinary. 2 metal chairs, 1 envelope, and, of course, there was nowhere to perform. Adrian was already seated near the far wall with Owen beside him. Owen did not look at me first. Adrian did. No anger, no pleading. Just the face of a man who had finished carrying something. A clerk called my name and handed me a packet. The top page named it clearly. Petition for dissolution of marriage with temporary financial and home use orders. The temporary orders hearing was scheduled for 3 weeks later, Thursday at 9 a.m. I read the first page standing up. Then I sat because the room had no reason to hold my pride for me. The packet referenced the dating app screenshots, Owen's messages, my agreement to drinks, the rooftop wine bar witnesses, and my statement calling Adrian a doormat. No hidden trick, no surprise witness. Just my own sentences, printed in an order that made them harder to decorate. The clerk asked if I needed a copy of the hearing instructions. Her voice was flat and kind in the way public employees become kind without entering your life. I said Adrian had turned private pain into paperwork. She pointed to the packet and said the instructions were on page 2. There was nothing in that sentence I could use. Dorian blocked me that afternoon after I asked if I could stay at his apartment for a few nights. His assistant sent one message from his office account saying Dorian did not get involved in divorces. Then a courier returned my scarf in a sealed envelope. I moved into a weekly hotel room near the airport because Adrian received temporary use of the house. The joint credit card was frozen, and my hotel incidentals had to go on my personal account. Maribel stopped answering, Cass removed me from the dinner group, Owen stayed beside Adrian, and Tessa became polite work emails with no lunches attached. Dorian's assistant returned my scarf without a note. At the hotel, staff stopped asking why I was staying under the employee rate. The thing is, I believed options made me powerful. I believed a woman with enough attention could never be left empty. But every man I called an option treated me the way I had treated Adrian. Temporary. Useful until inconvenient. Interesting until expensive. At courthouse security, the silver phone charm sat alone in the plastic tray beside my keys. I called my husband a doormat, and then I had nowhere left to stand.